Thank you all for joining us tonight for a very exciting program for the Ramen King, Ippudo's Shigemi Kawahara. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker tonight. Mr. Kawahara opened his first restaurant after the rain in 1979, followed by Hakata Ippudo in 1985. He's a three-time winner of the Ramen Chef Championship on the popular TV Tokyo program TV Champion, earning himself the amazing title of Ramen King. In 2008, he made his debut on the New York restaurant scene. I was at one of his restaurants on Sunday with my 2-year-old son. I can tell you from the crowd that was there, it is still going strong and very popular. That when we left, I think the wait was about over an hour to get a table. So that's how popular Ippudo is still in the East Village. There's now another location on the west side and several other sort of takeout ramen stands that he runs. We'll talk a little bit about that after his talk. Ippudo is still considered really the gold standard for ramen in New York, and arguably helped lead to this ramen renaissance that we're currently enjoying in the 5 boroughs, with ramen spots all over the city. In 2014, Mr. Kawahara was awarded the Japan Restaurant Special Award in recognition of his many contributions to the restaurant industry. We're truly honored to have him here in New York. And to start it off, we're going to watch a short video about Ippudo and their history. So I hope you enjoy it. After his talk, we'll do a little bit of Q&A, and I think it should be a very exciting program.
結構細かいけど色が濃いね。
一風堂の川原茂美です。よろしくお願いします。僕はラーメン始めたのはね、そんなに早くなくって、それ前まではね、別のお店っていうかレストランバーやってたんですけども、夜仕事することが多くて、もうちょっとなんか昼間自分のことをしっかりアピールできる仕事がしたいなと思い出してね。でラーメン屋さんどこもなんかあんまり本当にそんなにかっこいいお店がなくって、コンセプトとかね。で俺がやってるような店のそのレストランバーみたいな概念をラーメンで表現したら、もっと若い人たちもね、かっこいい女の子たちも男の子たちもいっぱい来るなと思って、32歳ぐらいになって、ちょうど時代、年号でいうと1985年ぐらいにお店の準備を始めました。なんかこうすごいやっぱし由緒正しきラーメン屋みたいなのを表現したかったのね。でファッション性があって、なんかこう古いんだけども新しくってかっこいいみたいな感じで、かっこいいっていうのがすごい俺テーマで、京都のね路地裏にあるようななんかこうでっかい木の看板があって、そこにポッと入ってみたらそのお店がお堂のような、一風堂っていいんじゃないって。で早速その字を書き込んだらもうかっこいいじゃんみたいな話になって、でやっぱし何よりもラーメンとしてこうメッセージを、ラーメン屋ってかっこいいぜみたいなこととか、うちのラーメン違うぜって、ラーメンってもっとファッショナブルでいいんじゃないのとか、女の子たちに食べてほしいんだよって、すごいやっぱそれまでなかったようなメッセージをどんどん言っていったから、それがやっぱし結構受けて、いろんな媒体に取り上げられて、それがやっぱし人気を呼んでいって、若い人たちがやっぱし増えていったね。やっぱなんか作っていくことって楽しいよね。味もお店も人も夢中だったね。僕はもう濃いポタージュみたいなスープ出してやるんだって思ってましたから、そういうスープをもう20時間とかね、もう24時間近く丸一昼夜こうねかけて取り出すスープなんか九州中なかったですよ本当に。でやっぱ麺は細麺ね。で最初はやっぱし知り合いの麺屋さんで、作ってもらってました。で3年目から自分でも作り出しました。ラーメン屋だからね、スープチャーシューはもちろんのこと、当時その自家製麺って少なかったんですよ。で麺もやっぱり自分で作んなきゃラーメン屋じゃねえやって思って、 でそれも自分ねその一風堂のメッセージとして随分言ってまいりましたね。その100に対して何%水分を使うかっていうので、低加水麺とか中加水麺とか多加水麺っていうのがね多い加水の麺っていうのが決まっていきますよね。特に九州の博多ラーメンもやっぱり細麺でしょ。であれがやっぱ豚骨のねその結構濃い味のスープによく馴染むのね。スープはこう味がピシッとこってりみたいな感じで麺はさっぱりみたいな感じでね。だからさっぱりした麺っていうのはやっぱし細い、そして細くてやっぱしこう水分量が少ない方が麺のザクっていう小麦感がよく出て美味しいのね。小麦粉を感じさせるっていうのがこれポイントなの。スープは96年ぐらいに赤丸白丸っていううちの看板商品を作りました。まあそれでも豚刀スープね1種類の、スープを使いながらやってました。でもっと美味しくしたいと思って2003年ぐらいから開発して、そのダブルスープにつきましたね。まあ豚刀スープっていうのは匂いもいいし甘さもあるし美味しいんですね。濃度も出て。でもそれをずっとこう豚刀だけでスープを取っていくとその香りとか甘さが出たり味の広がりは出るんですけどもその香りとかキレの良さが取れていくのね。深い味ででもキレがあるっていうのを出したかった。豚刀は豚刀で完璧に出してげんこつな柄骨だっていうのでも完璧にキレを出して一番いい対比はいくつだ5対5か6対4か、73か82かみたいなことをやっていって今の味にたどり着きましたね。この世界区になるためにはなんかやっぱし世界の中心で出した方がいいよね。でまあ世界の中心って言ったらまあニューヨークかパリだよね。まあパリはファッションだけどやっぱしなんかそういういろんなこうなんか俺とんがったものをしたかったからそんなんだったらやっぱしニューヨークだろうなと思って最初はやっぱし日本と同じようなねラーメンを作っていきましたけどやっぱしオイリーとか塩度が高いねお塩の角が取れてないとかいろんなことがあったね。で麺が食べにくいだからまあ食べやすいように大きいレンゲを用意したりすするのがねズズッといくのはやっぱ難しいから麺をちょっと短くしたりね、いろんな工夫しましたね。今はね海外はもう僕ら普通のフルサイズの日本のラーメンそのまんまでいってるとみんなすごい箸使いも上手になってね美味しく食べてますね。今日は俺このズズッと T シャツを着てますけどズズッと行こうぜってすするっていうのを食文化すするってさ音を立っちゃいけないとか欧米ではよく言いますけどそんなことなくってやっぱすするってやっぱ唇からねのところにで吸う時鼻に抜けたりする香りとか味とかさそれとか喉越しとか本当はすするってとってもなんかねこれって人間が楽しむべきねもんだと僕は思ってる。で日本の食文化でもあるなね、僕このずっとすするっていうのをラーメンを食べることによって世界中に広めていきたいね。30年か50年かかかるかもしれないけどきっとみんなすり出すよ。でだって世界中の人ラーメン大好きだもん。いつまでたってもなんかチャレンジャーでいたいね。いつも前を向いて、いろんな規制の概念にとらわれずにラーメン屋として誇りを持って進んでいきたいと思ってるね。
I am repeating myself. I am Ippudo's founder, Kawahara, Shigemi Kawahara. Thank you very much for coming. I know you're so busy, but there's so many people here in the auditorium today. Thank you so much. In front of you, I think you have this material. So inside there are two smaller materials. So I think there are three of them. One is the brief leaflet of our company. And I have created lots of concepts. The soup, the noodles. These are all completely different ramen from my traditional pork head ramen. So those are being introduced in the larger booklet. Another small one is there's this ramen museum in Japan. It's close to Yokohama. And I brought the material from there. This ramen museum collected all of the different ramen restaurants, and the idea was to have all of these ramen restaurants all in one place. So I've included that as part of the material. There is the 6th generation ramen from the 6 big ramen, Sapporo, Tokyo, or Kyushu. All these ramen are being introduced here. So if you could take a look at your leisure. And then this one, the third one is called zuzutto. This is a slurping sound. The slurping. Zuzu is the onomatopoeia for slurping, which I want to spread it in the world. So that's being illustrated here. So I hope you'll take a look at that one too. It's hot today, isn't it? I'm going to take off my jacket. Whoops. Are you okay? I'm fine here. Without this, I think it's going to be rather difficult. Oh well. I'm hot. Anyway, Ippudo, right now, well, in Japan there are 100 shops. And in the world, in New York, we have a restaurant here. In 12 different countries, we have 65 shops or 65 restaurants. In 1 year, every day, 50,000 customers, 50 or 60,000 customers eat ramen. In 1 year, we're talking about 20 million eat Ippudo's ramen. I'm half happy, but I also feel very responsible. I started my restaurant. I know you saw the movie earlier on, but it was back in 1985. In a small, only about 18 seats restaurant, and that was the beginning of my ramen restaurant. And then the first restaurant, 1985. At that time, when I had this first restaurant, this ramen, the first one was in Kyushu, which is a southern island in Japan. And Kyushu's ramen, I don't know how many people like the Kyushu ramen, or after I made that ramen restaurant, I decided to really focus on the ramen and help the people who want to take up ramen as their work. And so I created a goal. I really wanted to make a goal, and this is how I started my ramen restaurant. Ramen industry. I really wanted to bring a new wave. So that was my goal, and that's the reason why I called it Ippudo, One Wind Restaurant. Ramen in Kyushu, you use the pork head bone. There's a lot of those type. So you have that kind of ramen. We also use the chicken broth. There are two different types of ramen that I started, and this is how my ramen life started. Can you hear me? And then, so from the very beginning, I had the goal of making ramen, but it's not like I was successful from the very beginning. Every day it was trial and error. I made the noodles, I created different types of ramen, I did different types of soups, I also handmade the noodles, and constantly I was tasting a new taste, and I was pursuing what's the most delicious thing. So this was a trial and error that I was continuing. So it's not like from the very beginning I had lots of customers coming to my restaurant, but I really had the determination of making something delicious, and this is how I was very active and how I led my life. Through that effort, just as I introduced earlier, I was invited by the ramen museum back in 1993. Invited by the Ramen Museum, and after lots of different thoughts, I decided to participate and open a store in Ramen Museum. Think about it, more than 2 decades ago. Okay? And this Ramen Museum, the young owner of the museum was there. His name was Yoji Iwaoka. He was 34 years old around that time. I am Kawahara of ramen, and he said, Mr. Kawahara, I want to make this museum, ramen museum. And that did not exist back then. So I myself was really at a loss. I didn't know what to do. The ramen museum, to create such a museum, I wonder if there's any customers. And he was convinced that, yes, there will be lots of people coming. Because think about it. You have Hokkaido ramen. The people who live in remote places, if you go to Hokkaido, you have to fly on the plane, you have to use your money, you have to use your time to go all the way to Hokkaido. If you wanted to eat Kyushu ramen, if a person living in Tokyo thought so, then you have to fly. Again, you have to spend your money and time to go to Kyushu to eat Kyushu ramen. So if all of these different ramen, those Japanese representative ramen were all in one place, the cold Hokkaido ramen from the southern island, the hot island, and then the Chinese noodles in Tokyo, if you can all eat there at one place, I thought this will be great. Everyone will be happy. So that's the reason why we will be very successful. So that was a talk. That was a pitch, and even though I wasn't too sure about this, but he and his team had so much passion, plus he really had the conviction, he really wanted a lot of people, as many people to eat really delicious ramen, this aspiration and dream, and I just felt similar. I could share their aspiration, so I thought I really wanted to do it together. And at that point, it didn't matter whether there were many customers or not. So the passion is the most important. The dream is most important. The aspiration, the hope is important. And I really wanted to spread ramen throughout Japan. And this was the reason why I started to participate and open the store in this ramen museum.
大きな転機になりまして、
really became a turning point for me.
僕らの一風堂、
Ippudo,
日本の
Japan's Kyushu, in fact at a place called Hakata in Kyushu. Ippudo was very famous back then.
このラーメン博物館の
Ramen Museum's success.
僕らの一風堂は
And with this success, our Ippudo dramatically
日本の一風堂になりました。
changed from Kyushu's Ippudo to Japan's
喋り方
Ippudo.
が話は変わるけど、
I digress a little bit.
ちょっと聞きにくいでしょ。
But it might be a little difficult
通訳が入ってますので、
because you have the consecutive
わざとゆっく
interpreter.
り喋ってますので、
And that's the reason why I'm speaking so slowly. I hope you don't mind.
で、この実は
This
ちょっとすいません。
actually, I'm sorry,
ちょっと
I have a quick question
皆さんに対して質問ですけど、
to the audience.
僕は日本語で今話してますが、
I'm speaking in
日本人の
Japanese.
方はどのくらいいらっしゃ
And
る
how many people are Japanese, in
ありがとうご
fact?
ざいます。すいませんね、聞く
Thank you.
はい。
I'm sorry that it's hard to listen to me, but I am going to speak slowly. I am going to be talking at this
こ
tempo.
の
But actually,
この話はわかりますか？
did you understand what I was talking about? Are you okay? Is it okay so far? Thanks.
このラーメン
So,
博物館
this
が
ramen museum,
このラーメン職人の川原
ramen artisan, me, Shigemi Kawahara, this museum was so instrumental in my learning.
ラーメンを作るのは大好きです。
Of course, I always loved making ramen, and I was making, had so much passion, and I was doing everything to make this happen. But here, you have all these ramen artisans from Hokkaido and from the southern side, island of Kyushu. There was another ramen artisan, another guy from Kyushu, beside myself. So there were these ramen shops that were opened in this museum. But even within this museum,
一風堂の豚骨ラーメン、
Ippudo's pork head soup,
24時間の時間をとってスープ取るんですね。
I mean, for us, it takes 24 hours to make this broth. It takes forever.
あとの
But
7軒の店の人たち、
the other
今
seven
紹介されている店
stores,
ではありません。これは
not the ones that are introduced here, because this is featuring the current ramen shops. 22 years ago, it was a different ramen owners and ramen restaurants. So at the time, the famous ramen restaurants that came from all over the place in Japan, and there were 7 of them. And of course, in each of their restaurants, there were 600 customers, 700 customers, many of them. But if you had that many customers,
スープを作るのが
the soup
24時間で
in my place, it takes 24 hours. It takes a whole day to make this broth. Because first of all, you have to boil. Well, let me give you an idea of how to make this broth.
60リットルのね
You have 60 liters.
ポットが
Say there's this huge pot,
ここに30キロの
and you put 30 kilos
水をたくさん
of bones, and you have all these water, and you use 30,000 kilocalories of heat, and you boil it away, boil.
水は
And
減
then
っていく
the water is reduced. And at one point, when it's reduced to a certain level, you add water again.
起こしてる
And then you heat it up again, the soup is reduced, you add water again, so you repeat this. And this is how you get the bones, the broth from the beast
美
bone.
味しいスープが
And this is how you're able to come up with this broth. So again, it takes 20 hours to 24 hours.
で僕らはもうラーメン博物館だから
In the
店を出して
ramen museum,
たくさんのお
and
客
a
さん来
shop
て
in
く
the
れますから
museum,
ス
lots
ー
of
プが
people
なくなる
come, and we
する
ran
と
out of the
徹夜でラーメン
stock.
を作る
Then we have to make the broth
大
overnight.
変です
It takes some
ところ
lot
が
of effort.
他のお店も忙しいんですけど
Other shops are
彼ら
busy
は
too, but their way
例え
of
ば夜
making
の
it,
12時ぐらい
for
になった
instance,
ら
around
もうみんな
12
帰って
o'clock
くる
at night, they all go home.
僕たちは12時になってもスープをまだ作らなきゃいけないところがスープを作るといってもそこにずーっとスープの横にいるわけではありませんポイントポイントで水を足したりスープを見たりしながらあと時間があるんですね Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
どんな感じ
Can you hear me now? Sorry. No, let me just summarize. It takes time for our stock to be made, so we stay overnight in the museum. But then the other people, the other shops, they all go home. And so we spend several nights at home in the museum, and we had
時間が空いた時に
when we have some time
は
during the
他の
night,
ラーメン店の
we go
厨房を見に行くんです
into the kitchens of other shops. You can't do that actually. However,
しかし僕は美味しいラーメンを作りた
I
い
really wanted to make a tasty ramen. I was passionate
そ
about
れに
it.
人がいない
And there are nobody around. We're the only ones staying in the museum overnight. So we sneak in, and then I take one young guy with
若い
me,
弟子はいつも言います
and then he always tells me, "Is that okay? Are you sure?" Yeah, it's okay. It's our
彼ら
lesson.
のいない厨房の
So we go
冷
into
凍
the empty
庫を開けていくん
kitchen
ですね
and we open the refrigerator.
ラーメン店
In the ramen
とて
shops,
もデリケートな
it's a very delicate
仕事で
business.
このスープの
And the soup,
材料が
the broth, the ingredients are important.
そしてこの味付けが大変
And the flavoring is
味噌の味をつ
vital.
けるか味噌で味をつけるか
Miso flavor or soy sauce or salt. There are many different kinds of ways to flavor it. Or the stock from a pork bone or chicken bones.
和だしを入れたり
Or do we add some Japanese style
こ
dashi?
のお店の特徴
Each shop has its own
そういう
flavor
秘密が
by mixing all those ingredients. And those secrets are hidden in the refrigerator of each shop. So, and I open one fridge and I say, this shop uses this miso brand. Oh, they use this shoyu brand. Oh, I see. They use this noodle.
当時僕はもうハンドメイ
At
ド
that
で
time,
ヌードル
I
を
was
作ってました
making
から
noodle with my
この
hand.
麺の秘密は
So when I look at the noodle, I can tell how they make it. And then I learn lots of
そ
things.
して、次の日になったら今度は
And then the next
そのお
day,
店の先生たちがやってきます
those teachers from all those masters
そして僕
come
は
to each
ほとん
shop.
どそのラーメン博
And
物
then
館でラーメンを作って朝を迎えてます
I just I spend the night there, and then in the morning I see them, so I go there and say, "Hi, how are you? How are you today?"
そしたら彼らはね
And then they all they're rubbing their eyes, sleepy eyes, and say, "Oh yeah, fine." And then they start their
ラ
preparation.
ーメンスープを作り始め
They
る
start making their broth.
僕は昨日の情報があります
I already have yesterday's information in
そした
my
ら目の前
head.
で先生が
So
作り
in
方を
front
教え
of
てくれる
me, they show me how to make it, how to use the ingredients.
そういう経験が
So that sort of experience
僕は今まで
I had in
ラ
those
ーメンコンテ
days.
スト7回ぐらいの
I have participated 7 large ramen competition in Japan. Everybody presented the new creation, and I won the first prize 5 times.
ラーメン博物館だ
The knowledge from that knowledge that I used all came from this ramen museum
た
experience.
ちはみんな川原が
So those ramen mates, they all know that I have sneaked into their kitchen, so they have forgiven me. Thank you very much.
まあそんなこんな
And
ことがありながら
so that was
どんどんラーメンに
those were the days, and then I just deepened my interest in ramen even further. My
た
customers
くさんのお客さんが
expanded. So many customers.
GoTo じゃないね
That,
多
that,
分一風堂ですどうしてもね
so many customers came to Ippudo and then they enjoyed our noodle.
そういう中で日本の
In
九州の
in
ブドウが
Japan, the Ippudo in Kyushu
出ていく日本の真ん中にある都市東京に出
these
たことで全国区になりました
expanded to Tokyo, the central Japan. The Ippudo became Japan's Ippudo. Since then, I started thinking,
おおそうだ
okay,
僕はその
I
前に
before that, there was some thought I had
を作る一人の男として
as a one man who makes
子供
noodle
たちの親と
and
して
also as a parent of my
50歳を
children.
迎えたら
When I become 50 years old,
日本ではなく
not in Japan, not just in Japan, but I would like to go
40代に
into the world. I decided that when I was in 40s.
その50歳が
And
2002年です。
2002, I turned 50
実
years
は
old.
1999年ぐらいに
In 1999, I came to New
そ
York,
れは、ニューヨークに店を出そうと
and
決め
that
て
was because I decided to open my restaurant in New York.
でいろいろなところを案内してもらいまし
So I was shown different areas
た。
in New
その中
York,
で
and while I was visiting, especially one place, Union
と
Square,
思いました
that was the area that I really wanted to open my restaurant.
のユニオンスクエアは
1999, the Union Square in 1999 was filled with students
とても学生が多く
and
て自由な雰囲気でした。
had a very free
こ
atmosphere
のユニ
there.
オンスクエアに1号店を出そう。
So I thought I want to open my first restaurant in Union Square. That was my first decision.
2002年
While I was preparing for
大きい
that,
事故が事件があり
in
ました。
2002, there was a very sad incident happened.
9.11があり
9/11 happened,
一挙に
and United
悲し
States
みに大きい悲しみに
fell into the deep
僕
sorrow,
らも
and
店
we
を出せる状況では
also were not in a shape to open a restaurant.
僕は、その年は、その
In that
次の年2003年から
The next year, in 2003, I went to Shanghai in China, and I prepared to
その
open
中で
a restaurant there.
2006年ぐらいに
And finally, in
ニューヨーク
2006,
もまあ随分落ち着い
the
てき
New
ました
York has come back to its own life, and I felt that, okay, now I can open my shop
あの
here.
ユニオンスクエアの近所だ
And the first shop should be somewhere near Union
しっ
Square.
かり探そうという話のもとに
And I looked around
店を
the
探しまし
area,
て今の
and finally,
イースト店の場所が
I
決まりました
found the spot of this East Village store that I have right now.
なかなかですねやっぱ日
It
本で
was
は契約が
not very easy. In Japan, once
店
you
は
sign a
大体契
contract,
約あと3ヶ月ぐらいで
we usually can open a shop 3 months after signing the contract of the property. But in New York, it's not the case. It's a very different
2007年の2
situation.
月ぐらいに契約して
We signed the contract in 2007, around February 2007. And then we opened the shop in year 2008.
払いました
We paid lots of rent,
工事費もたくさん払いま
and
し
we paid lots for construction too.
たガスのこと
The gas
水道のこと
fee,
電気のこ
water,
と
electricity,
ヘルスのこと
the health
難しい
regulations.
ことばっかりで
There are
し
so many obstacles and challenges.
たでもやっと
However,
2008年に
in 2008, we opened our first restaurant here.
最初は
At first, in New
1号
York,
店の地下の
the number one restaurant,
狭い
in the
厨房
basement
で
of the restaurant, there was a kitchen, and it was so hot, and we made the broth.
そしてその
We
横
still
に
do.
小さな製麺機を
And then there was a small noodle maker machine. We created the area, and then we made our house-made
ラー
noodle.
メン屋は
We always
スープ
think
と麺と
ramen shop
食材
consists
具材を
of
作ってラーメン屋
broth and soup
なかなかこの当たり
and
前な
the topping ingredients.
を知らない
That's
人たち
that's
も
the obvious standard. But there are many people who don't know this obvious
しっかりとラーメンを
facts.
作り始めた一風堂は
And then we based ourselves on that firm foundation. We started getting lots of customers.
それは
We were very happy.
僕
And that
た
is
ちが
probably
伝えたかっ
because what we
た僕は
wanted to
いつも
communicate.
よく思ってるんです
I always
ラーメン
think
屋は
The ramen restaurant, if we have a tasty ramen, it's just a baseline. The ramen is the food of a preference. It's like a hamburger in the United States. Many of you have different people like different hamburger shops or restaurants. I like Mac. No. It has to be Burger King. No. I want Shake Shack. In England also. The fish and chips, Japanese people don't eat fish and chips a lot, but in England, there are so many fish and chips bars. And then among them, there are different people like different fish and chips places. The Japanese, for Japanese, ramen is soul food. I like this miso noodle. I like pork broth, but not Ippudo. I like Ichiran better. There are many preferences, but that's fine. Ramen is fine. There are many different flavors. Each one has each soul food. What was I going to say? What was I talking about? I guess I hopped the topic, maybe. So I just wanted to say that ramen is a soul food. How should I say? Tasty ramen I want to create. There are important points when you make noodles. Shall we say? The very important points of ramen makers. When you make broth, you need a pork bone. You have to have a good quality pork bones. You have to have good quality chicken bones. But finally, it requires good personality. The personality, the Japanese word has also the similar word for bone. When we work with many different people, and I also meet lots of sushi cooks or tempura cooks. Any cook who is successful, they all have good personality. They're sincere. They're straightforward and honest, and they're action-oriented. They're full of hopes and aspirations. When you create a flavor, ramen or sushi or other dish, cocktails, anything, the personality, the caliber, the kindness, it shows up in the flavor. No matter how good the technique is, you can't make the truly tasty food. As a professional, you have to have good technique. But as a professional, we have to polish our human capacity, human caliber, personality. I think that's the most important part of our vocation. I often talk to my staff members. What are we making? What do you think we are making? We? Ramen. We're making ramen. Aren't we? Yeah, of course we are making ramen. However, when you go one step further, what we are creating is arigato, thank you, the sense of thank you. It is the sense of appreciation.
Thank you very much. This arigato, this spirit has to be in the ramen making. That bowl of ramen is the delicious one. You have to have arigato spirit in making the sushi. That makes it delicious. You have to be thinking in that way. So this is how we face the ramen broth, we face the ramen noodles and cook. When you have more and more restaurants, it'll become increasingly difficult to convey that particular message. There are so many, and it may become increasingly difficult in the future. But I do think all the time that arigato, you have to make sure that you shape arigato. And if you forget that, you can very well abandon that particular restaurant. We, as a Japanese, we will be opening a lot of different ramen restaurants. Ippudo, I always think that we want to be leading such an effort. But what's in the base, what's in the root is the pride of the Japanese, or as a human being. Those emotions need to be the base. And we don't need to be swaying from that, and we want to be making a really good ramen. So that is the concept that I have, or that is a philosophy that I have. To make arigato is very abstract, or it may sound abstract, but a lot of people who cook, who make, think that way. They don't just focus on their techniques. Their human personality are manifested in your work. And that's how they're working. And those are the type of people who, even within the industry, ramen industry, within the sushi industry, or among the people who make the cocktail drinks, become most successful. So those are the aspirations that I have when I work. Lastly, but not least, I often say this: we are making ramen. We are making arigato. But one more thing. My father, from when I was small, I have 4 brothers and sisters. And so I've got brothers. My father was drawing a picture. He was an art teacher. He often told me when I was a kid, so I was the youngest of the 4, I didn't do very well at school. I would draw manga, I would cook at home next to my mom. I was helping my mom. I was a very quiet kid. I know that you won't believe me, but anyway, my father told me, Shigemi, that's my name. A human being has an infinite possibility. You have to constantly believe on such a possibility and potential. I think that's what he said. But through my work, this is how I think. It's true that a human being has an infinite possibility, but there's one thing that you have to choose. You can only choose one thing. My father spent a long time to convey a message. So I really treasure the message that I learned from my father. So I always think this. Even now, as I'm working, there may be lots of things that will make me wonder, that will make me confused, but I constantly want to believe in the infinite possibility. I want to choose one doorknob of possibility, to seek such a doorknob on the door. Is that okay? To find the doorknob, after I find the doorknob, I would put my hand on, and to turn such a doorknob is me. It's not some other people opening the door. It's not my wife. It's not my children. It's not my parents. I am the one who opens the door. I am the one who grasps the doorknob and opens the door. Even if that particular moment, beyond that door, I think that I'll be able to see some hope. Well, now, there could be very well a possibility that I won't see any hope. It could very well be a complete darkness. Most people, a lot of people think that, they made a mistake and they close the door, they shut it immediately. But the doorknob, if you put your hand on it and if you turned it and opened the door, and even if what you saw beyond the door was different from what you had expected, you still have to step in and go through the door. Whether you can do this or not, you may think that you might have failed, but you have to step in because you were the one who put your hand in the doorknob and opened the door of possibility, and you have to believe that beyond this, there's going to be hope. No question about that. And then you might have some confusion, you might be scared, you may be only half a step that you'll be able to walk, but you can't go back. And there can be one step backward, but you're not going to go back outside of the door again. You have to step forward, you put your foot in the front. And then you'll be able to see the light of the hope. And once you're embraced with the hope, with the light of hope, then you will see another new door right in front of you. It's, I know, a very abstract story that I'm saying, but that's the type of thing that I'm thinking. And this is how I imagine what kind of ramen I'll be able to make so that everybody will be able to enjoy. This is how I make every effort. I mean, I know effort sounds too much, too big a word, but this is how I do make an effort. I want, throughout my lifetime, I want to be an incumbent. I'm 64 years old. But in the kitchen, I still want to continue with my work. I want to be in the restaurateur. As a ramen restaurateur, I really want to continue with my work until I die. This is how I spend my every day. From now on, I will continue to deliver delicious ramen throughout the world. And I want to be able to serve a good bowl of ramen to each customer, either at I myself serving at the customer at my restaurant, or my guys serving the customer. Without swaying, I want to convey this message. And I really want to continue to be, the Ippudo continues to be the first runner and continue to make ramen. I know this sounded like a conviction and determination, but I really wanted to convey my message to you in front of the audience. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing all that with us. Do you think, you talked a lot about regional styles of ramen all over Japan. Do you think that now, having been open in New York, for a number of years, is there a New York style of ramen?
Well, I do think so, yes. A New York style ramen. So, for instance, what we're doing right now is we are coming out with a vegetable ramen. We serve that. Vegetable ramen for the past 3 years, 3 or 4 years. The Japanese restaurants, I know it's not that many, but they've started to come out with vegetable ramen as well in Japan. But this concept originated in New York. We thought about it, and we were the one who spread in the ramen industry in Japan. And Ippudo-related restaurant started to serve such ramen, and this is how it's spreading more in Japan. And another thing is, for instance, a very diversified, different style. I mean, New York has diversity. And for Islamic people, we serve halal ramen. So, using chicken. Well, I'm not sure if they'll eat or not, but we do think that we have to make halal ramen, and this is the type of conversation that we have at the restaurant, and we do make such ramen. And that, I think, originates from the fact that I have experienced here in New York.
Are there, obviously the part of the signature of your ramen is the homemade noodles, and do you find it hard, you have restaurants all over the world, is it hard to replicate making the noodles different waters, different flours, different humidity, to make your noodles, in whether it's Sydney or London or Paris or New York?
That's true. As you're right in saying that it's not easy at all. But what we do is, back in Japan, we have an experience of 3 decades, actually more than 30 years of experience. So I do know various different manufacturers, flour, or the manufacturers that source the carcass. We have a huge network. And such a network has spread around the globe. So if we talk about flour, gluten, or protein, the way you blend this, we have this as a data. And we have them seek in different countries. Okay? Another thing, what's important that I think noodles are important. Noodles and broth, they're both important. But what's most important is Ippudo's concept that Ippudo has. Ippudo's concept.
Is it hard to convince Americans to have their noodles al dente? In the more Japanese style, where in America so often the noodles are boiled so that they're so limp.
ちょっと待ってそうね、まあ
Well, that's true. But if it's limp, I mean, some people do like those limp, overcooked noodles, I've got to admit. Particularly Kyushu ramen. They're thin noodles. So if you boil over, I mean, it's so easy to overcook. So that's something that I constantly have to teach.
At the center of, I think, your success has been so much innovation, and whether it's the broth or the noodles, are there things that you're working on now that we'll be seeing, in Ippudo restaurants, in the next few years?
そうですね。加水の高い麺。
Well, the water content, the high water content, noodles, or the soup that doesn't get cold. I'm not sure how that translates to the American audience, but something that's more delicious. Now, for us coming from Kyushu, in Japan, the ramen, we use the thin noodles that has less water content. But I wonder if the people overseas prefer some softer and yet it's still al dente. So that's a type of ramen that I'm working on, that I want to create. There are so many convictions, but innovations, but that's something that I'm always working on.
One of the things that you've introduced in New York is sort of the more fast serve ramen bars. There's one near Grand Central. Is it hard to translate the Ippudo, like all of your, all of the heritage to make it, but like a quick serve? Is that something was it difficult to translate it into that?
そうですね。クイックサーブといっても、
when you call quick serve, it's also for takeout. So for takeout, if you take out, the men gets mushy. So in order to prevent letting the noodle mushy, or the broth gets colder in the winter weather, how to prevent that? That was our challenge, and that's what we are trying right now.
Will we see those type of restaurants in if it's successful all across America? Do you think?
Next year onwards, in New York and maybe in April in San Francisco, we will open Ippudo, or maybe towards the end of this year, Kuro will be the quick serve noodle bar, and we would like to see how successful it's going to be in the United States. We will keep trying.
Yeah. I think it could be one of these things where it could be a new big trend. Obviously, ramen is very successful in America, but the quick serve ramen, I could see becoming very successful, all over the U.S. Do you ever get have any of these your initiatives in different countries? Have any of them not worked out like you thought they would? Have some of the dishes in different cultures not worked out?
There are lots of cases like that. For instance, when in Korea, we opened a shop in Korea, and we tried really hard there, and we tried to make a delicious broth and noodle ramen. However, it was not well accepted. We tried for 5 years, but we withdrew in the end. They have a very distinct culinary culture there, and probably our technique was not enough to adapt to that culture. That's how I felt sometimes. However, I'm not going to give up. I always keep trying. The life, innovation, we have to learn from the failure and push forward. If there's no problem that we cannot solve, that's how I feel.
Is it hard for you to source the level of ingredients that you want in all of these different places to find you talked about the good bones and to find the source of all of those things to the level of that you're used to in Japan?
Yes, there are things like that. Indeed, in New York, we make broth from a pork head. Then in New York, before Ippudo came to New York, was there any restaurant who used pork head to make broth? No place. So we asked, do you have pork heads? I want pork heads. They just gave us this whole head of the pig. That was hard. For instance, we call it cleaning of the head. We spent so please don't hate Ippudo, but one day we use 100 heads pork. So the 10 days it's 1,000 heads sometimes. So we clean the head. That is a challenge in any country. No country has the tradition of making broth out of pork heads. So, but we try hard. And then the next ramen chain or restaurants, it will be helpful for them. So I think that's a good thing, too. And lots of younger Japanese ramen restaurateurs, we talk about shoyu, salt, soy sauce, broth, noodle, flour. It's always Ippudo who is opening the first door. But that's how this ramen became so proliferated in the world, and Ippudo kept opening the door of possibility.
Well, you talked a little bit about opening your restaurant in New York, and it took about a year or so. Did you bring chefs? Do you have a system for opening restaurants in new areas where you bring chefs from Japan or other places? Is there a long process?
We brought 6 chefs from Japan. Noodle master, soup master, and store manager. We brought them all from Japan, and then we took 3 to 5 years. I don't know how many of you are here from my shop here. I see 2 or 3 here. We brought lots of Japanese staff members, and then there are lots of Japanese chefs still already remaining. But I hope now that the New Yorkers will work in our restaurants and become chef.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about your life and about Ippudo and about ramen. I think we all learned a lot, and I think we're all very hungry now for ramen. I can't think of anything but ramen at this point, but thank you so much. Arigato.
Thank you so much. どうもありがとうございました。どうもありがとう。
Pleasure.